Cyclical. All right, John Horn. Anne pointed the spoon at him threateningly. There will be no cobbler for you until you tell us what this surprise is. Her husband grinned as he pushed his plate away. Well, he said, I can't rightly tell you, seeing how it's actually Dad's surprise. He unbuttoned his pocket flap and withdrew the letter, then extended it to his father. Robert quirked an eyebrow but said nothing as he took the missive from him. Men. Anne let out a sigh of frustration. Melinda and Heather looked expectantly at Mel's grandfather. It wasn't even yours, yet you've made us sit here through the entire meal consumed with curiosity. With a chuckle, her husband replied, but it's the anticipation that makes it all the sweeter. His wife opened her mouth then to retort, then noticed her father-in-law staring intently at the letter with a grave expression. Finally, the elder Horn said, It's from Carla. Must have been mailed before the impact. Dad, his son interjected, look at the postmark. It's dated the 8th. She mailed it after the impact. She's alive. His father squinted at the outside of the envelope, then took his reading glasses out of his pocket and put them on. He re-examined the letter and said, Well, sure enough, it's dated the August 8th. His hand shook slightly as he carefully slit the envelope open with a butter knife. Inside were 3 folded pages with Carla's neat penmanship on them. Unfolding the pages, his father began to read aloud. August 7th, 2002. Dear Dad, I have no way of knowing if you and the family have survived the tsunamis resulting from the asteroid strike, or even if this letter will ever be delivered, so I suppose I'm writing this as much for myself as to let you know that I and the kids are alive. I don't know about Aaron. He was with us when the news came, but somehow we were separated in the madness of trying to get as many people on board as possible before we had to undock. But I'd better start this at the beginning so you'll understand. As you may recall from my last letter, we had been back in Norfolk for a week when the news broke. I think it went out over military channels before the public announcement, so we had a few more minutes warning. Aaron had brought Cindy and Neil to the base so I could show them around the carrier. As you probably recall, it's open on a limited basis for public tours when we're not actively preparing to ship out. We decided to have a late lunch at the chow hall. You and I ate at last year and had just left when the base warning siren sounded. We didn't know at first what the emergency was about, or even if it was only a drill, so we ran for the nearest shelter so I could be sure Aaron and the kids were safe before reporting back to the ship. When we got there, the shelter commander immediately ordered everybody to head to the wharves, yelling about an asteroid that was going to impact, and we all had to get aboard before the tsunamis hit Norfolk. It seems when the word came in about the impact, the admiral ordered every ship that could make way and every plane that could get off the ground to move to safety, but only after as many people as could be safely crammed aboard were taken on. The asteroid was only 45 minutes from impact when the sirens went off, so there wasn't time for any organization. The SPs just started grabbing anyone and everyone and shoving them towards the docks. This is when we lost Aaron. A woman with a child in her arms fell, and he stopped to help her get up, while I ran with Neil in my arms and had Cindy by the hand. I thought he was behind us, but when we got to the ramp, he wasn't anywhere to be seen, and the SP wouldn't let me go back to look. I can only hope he made it aboard another ship, but I know he is not on board with us. 2 hours before the tsunamis arrived, the captain threw off all the lines and pulled out, going to flank speed as soon as he was clear enough that he could do so. We've never done that before because of the damage and the safety risk, but every ship in the yard was moving fast. We saw plane after plane rising in the distance. One went down and crashed into a housing area, but I've never heard why. The entire group was blowing every horn and whistle it had to warn everyone out of the way as we made our insane dash to open sea and deep water. I know we ran down at least one cabin cruiser that didn't get out of the way. I saw the people bailing out. They must have had engine trouble because they were sitting dead in the channel. By the time we cleared the harbor and were heading out into open ocean, we could see a monstrous number of ships and boats of every description before and aft of us, all heading outbound. When the asteroid was supposed to enter the atmosphere, I had the kids cover their eyes, but I put on my sunglasses and I saw it hit air. I shouldn't have done that, as I may have damaged my vision, but it seems to be getting better now. It was well over the horizon from us, so that what I saw was like a camera strobe flashing, then it disappeared. I was mostly blind for a little while, but I could see the sky in that direction begin to turn dark and expand like watching time-lapse photography of an approaching storm. We were hustled below after that, so I didn't get to see any more, as everyone was sent below decks and the ship battened down for gale weather. I don't know how tall the wave was or in what depth of water we were at when it came, but for a moment we were all terrified we would capsize. The ship eventually righted itself, and the damaged crews got on top of everything very quickly. We had hundreds of non-ship personnel on board, ranging from kids like Cindy and Neil to vendor repair technicians and base shore personnel. So it took a while to get everyone squared away, and it is very cramped. We're very short on fresh water, and it is severely rationed, as is food, but we're alive. Once he was sure the last of the waves had passed, the captain spent a day searching for survivors from any ships or boats that might not have survived the deep water waves. He eventually called it off as shore debris began to drift out and pose a hazard to navigation, along with overturned boats and ships. We didn't recover many before we left, and before we left I saw many, many bodies in the water. I can't tell you where we're at, nor am I allowed to say where we're going, but if you ever receive this, then take heart that at least the three of us are alive, and maybe Aaron is as well on one of the other ships. I've got to go make sure the kids are squared away before I go on duty. Cindy is taking this like a trooper and has been a real help in organizing the kids and keeping them under control. Neil's settling down now that the fright of it is passing and starting to do well. I'll write again when I can. Love, Carla. P.S. Tell John that all those nutty books he bought may finally be paying off. I take back all the ribbing I've been giving him over the years. Love, Carla. His father folded the letter and gently put it back in its envelope, then excused himself to use the toilet. John reckoned he'd never seen his father weep in his life, not even when his wife, John's mother, died, and wouldn't see it now either. Probably just as well, because he'd get me going too, most likely. Anne and Belinda did not try to hide their tears, and Heather looked close to weeping herself. Presently, John cleared his throat and said, "That's the first piece of really good news we've had since impact. Tonight, when we all sit down to supper, we'll have a prayer of thanksgiving." With a glance at the kitchen clock, he said, "I told Ed Harris to drop by about 1. He's a neighboring sector deputy and is going to watch our dog operation. Reckon I'd better round up the gear and get ready."